Hi, I'm Father Wesley Evans. I'm the priest in charge at St. Stephen's Episcopal Church here in downtown Sherman. And I thought I would take all of you on a little online tour of our church. Now, if you were to enter in on a Sunday, hopefully you will visit us for our Holy Week services coming up. First thing you notice, of course, we've got red doors, which mean sanctuary. Not all churches have them, but we're pretty old school here in lots of different ways that I will gladly point out. As you come into church, you'll see we have a holy water stoup. We keep, there, you can see it here, holy water in here. If you wish to avail yourself of that and ask God for a blessing, dip our fingers in the holy water and make the sign of the cross like that. Many people do that as they enter the church. Enter inside here. And first thing you will notice is our baptismal font. Right here, we've got a smaller stone one, but it's very, very cool here. We have it covered in purple. We'll also have all the other icons and crosses covered in purple for Lent. Actually, because we're old school here, we do it for Passiontide, which is the last 2 weeks of Lent. So we do continue to keep that tradition here. So we've got that covered. Now, not everything gets covered, really. Usually only devotional crosses or icons, things of that nature. But a few other things do get covered. But here's our baptismal font. It's in the beginning of the church because the entryway into the church is through baptism. All right? Entryway is through baptism. So the font is first. You can see in the back our sanctuary up to the high altar. We've got lots of cool stained glass. I don't know if that's possible. Some of this stained glass is actually fairly old. It's interesting. I don't know the whole history, but some of these styles are only seem to be found in some of the first churches in the diocese. St. Matthew's Cathedral in Dallas has this style of stained glass window, and so does Good Shepherd in Terrell. And I imagine that the other earliest churches in this diocese also have the same style. Not all of them are this style. Some of them are a different style, which may or may not show up in this phone, but it's got kind of a greenish hint or hue of some sort to it. But that is St. Stephen being stoned. St. Stephen is from the book of Acts, okay? And he is both considered the first deacon and also sometimes called the proto-martyr, which means first martyr. He was the first Christian martyr that Luke records in the book of Acts. And that is a story, the image of his martyrdom. So you enter into a church, and you'll walk up to find your pew, like so. And again, we've got more stained glass windows of all the apostles on both sides, right? And when you get to a pew, often what people do as a form of devotion to God. And here's the best way to think of this. This is the way I think of this. That's the easiest. Is imagine this is a throne room, and everything is about God as king enthroned up there. So if you enter into, say, a human ruler's presence, okay, and you will get there, the first thing you would do then is bow. So we call it genuflecting, all right? And it's just a simple bow like this towards the altar. And then some people make the sign of the cross as well. That's personal piety. And then people get in their pews. A few other things you might notice. We have the Stations of the Cross. I'll do another video on that another time. But those are Stations of the Cross, which trace Jesus' final hours up to his crucifixion. That's a tradition that goes back to Jerusalem and was carried into Europe during the crusading era as a way to allow people to go on this virtual pilgrimage of the Via Dolorosa without actually having to go all the way to the Holy Land. I'll do another video on the stations and the history some other time. As you can see, we've got, again, some things covered. We had that as actually a small area in honor of the Blessed Virgin Mary, and that icon is covered, and again, our high cross on the altar. Speaking of the altar, let's go to the altar. Out and genuflect again. Now this area is known as the sanctuary proper. We have our lectern where we read, see if you can see it, where we read the New Testament and Old Testament lessons, and we do our Psalms usually from there as well, and then the pulpit where we preach from. Now, this church is interesting. So here is a liturgy geek fact. We have an altar where I celebrate facing east. Celebrate's another term for doing what the priest does, okay? For those of you who are from a different tradition, don't understand don't know the lingo. Celebrate, just think of it as what the priest is doing up there. The easiest way for now to think of it. And eastward, that's that direction. The church is set up because it's sacred space, is set up to align itself, okay, in certain directions. And traditionally, one prayed facing east. So this may or may not be technical east. I'd have to check a compass, but that's considered a liturgical east or symbolic east. Well, the altar is set up, so that's the way I face, because again, this is a throne room. And God is on his throne, so I am facing the same direction as everyone else, praying to God. That's the theology behind having the altar there. Well, around Vatican II in, what was it, 60s, 70s, I'm not interested in theology after 1700 usually, so it happened sometime after them. Anyway, they decided to move the altar away from the wall for various other theological reasons, which I'm not going to go down that rabbit trail to get into. Well, anyway, this altar can't be. It doesn't really matter. There's not enough room up there to move it away from the wall. Well, here's the thing. The gospel is usually read from the north end over there. So usually the pulpit would be on this end. But at some point, somebody took the modern route of putting the pulpit over here on the other side and switched the lectern, but left the altar where it was. So I don't know. That's just the way our church is laid out. So we kind of do things a little weird because we have a traditional eastward-facing altar, but we read the lessons from the north end, and sometimes I read the gospel from the south end. Anyway, it's part of the organic history of this parish. So we come up to the altar, and we have an altar rail. Now, if you were to come up on a Sunday and you were to receive communion, come to the altar rail and kneel. Okay. And hold out your hand. Can't really do this with only one hand, I guess. But best way is only keep one palm up, okay? Hold out both hands. But can't record that very well, can I? But hold out both hands and put one palm on top of the other and wait for the person next to you to receive and get up before you get up. That way nothing spills. That's just a logistical issue. And if you are not comfortable receiving, or if you've not been baptized, you cross both of your arms, make an X across your chest, and I'll just give you a blessing. On the altar, if you were to come up to the altar, I won't go over all the different parts of this. Maybe I should do that in another video. But we have a tabernacle here, and that's where we keep the consecrated bread and wine, which is then the body and blood of Christ. In the Episcopal Church, or in Anglicanism in general, we don't make a statement over how that works. We just use this phrase, the real presence, as a vague way of saying Christ is there and we don't know how. So that's it. Christ is present in the bread and wine. We don't know how. Lots of people have theories. You're welcome to hold to any or none of those theories. But Christ is present, so we keep the sanctuary lamp burning to indicate that Christ's presence is there. That's a lot of the reason we do all the genuflecting and the bowing to the presence of Christ. We have our high altar here, crucifix covered. You see we have different candles on the altar, okay? And you notice this is special for this video because we have the bishop coming this Sunday. So, we have an extra candle, the bishop's candle, all right? You notice that we have 6 candles, okay, plus our 2 sort of altar candles, which we keep up there because this is such a small altar to work from. But, so we have, the regular kind of 6 candles here, and then this 7th candle right here we'll only bring out when the bishop is here as the bishop's candle. You notice these candles are not white, they're unbleached because it's Lent. So we use unbleached candles, we cover the crucifixes, and actually on Maundy, Thursday, if you join us for that, we're going to take all this away anyway. We're going to have a very dramatic ritual stripping of the altar. So that's just a small piece. I'll do another video on all the parts of the altar and maybe take you on through the sacristy at some point too, and you can see all the different fun stuff. There we go. All the different fun stuff we do. So that's a general overview. That's a tour of our church, kind of what we have. There's a lot of history here. This parish actually dates back, the congregation to 1873 and the building to 1903. It's one of the oldest buildings in Sherman, I believe, and it is one of the oldest churches in this diocese. We do have history going back to Bishop Garrett, who was the first bishop of this diocese. In fact, the congregation itself predates his time here. So very old historic building. We've got lots of gorgeous stained glass, very nice high altar. It's a wonderful place to worship. So if you visit, remember, Divine Courtroom. You can take some holy water, come bow before Jesus before you enter your seat. You can follow along. I'll do some more instructional videos on what to do then. So hope you enjoyed this small little tour, and were able to put up with any rabbit trails that I tend to go off when I'm chattering about these things that I find very interesting. So thank you very much. God bless.